As we descend into what you call a greater depression, I'd like to build some more context on how you think that looks and what the milestones are between today and between a greater depression. Maybe that includes stagflation. Stagflation being the etymology of that word is it's a portmanteau of stagnant, a stagnant economy with inflation. Is that one of the milestones on the way to this greater depression that you described, Doug?
Stagflation is what they have in exaggerated form in places like Zimbabwe, where I've spent a lot of time, incidentally, and Venezuela, where I've also spent a lot of time over the years. The currency loses value at an accelerating rate, and asset prices drop along with the standard of living. That's what we're looking at here in the U.S. We talk about these third world countries. As things get bad in third world countries because of higher food and fuel prices squeezing people at the bottom, there's going to be mass migration all over the world. We're already seeing that across the Rio Grande. They say that about 2 million people are crossing the Rio Grande into the U.S. every year. Now, I guess those people are put up with free food, free cell phones, free money, free education, free medical, but that could go much higher. We could be getting 3 or 4 million people piling into the U.S. And this is a very destabilizing influence where you have all these poor people of a vastly different culture wandering around with nothing to do, being supported publicly. The same thing is going to happen in Europe, incidentally. It has happened already, but it's going to accelerate where you're going to have millions, tens of millions, eventually, of people, feet people, boat people, coming up from Africa and across from the Middle East to Europe because they realize standard of living higher, free stuff. I'm getting out of the war zones where I'm living on a plot of sand with nothing to eat. So we're looking at mass social upheaval in the years to come. And a lot of it's due to the economic chaos created by these governments. And what's really created the chaos is their printing currency units by the trillions, which, as I said, is going to also destroy the mortgage market. And you destroy the mortgage market in the U.S., you destroy the real estate market as well. So hold on to your hat.
America is a fragile place. I talked about an unraveling before. We're in a really precarious place where people commonly get cars with 7-year financing. Now, maybe that's a good idea for some people if you can arbitrage a fixed 3% car interest loan rate. But, I'm talking about people that can only afford a car if they stretch out their financing. I mean, it's been said half of America has no savings at all. Instead, they have loads of all kinds of debt, mortgage and credit card and auto and student loan debt. I mean, if those people need to lay their hands on an extra $500 or $1,000, they can't do it. America is fragile that way.
Yes, we see lots of people living on the streets in major cities, living under bridges. And in the future, as they lose their jobs, because they've been working in unsustainable industries, I hate to use the word unsustainable. It's become so PC and popular. But there have been a lot of distortions caused in the economy because of the money creation, where people have been doing things that they otherwise couldn't, where they've been basically living above their means, either by borrowing capital that other people have saved in the past, that's what debt does, or mortgaging their future. That's the nature of debt. That's why debt is bad and savings are good. Few people have savings today. So where do we go from here? What do we do from here? I mean, I own a nice house in the U.S., I've got a farm here, or I've got other stuff. I don't consider these things as investments. I consider them as expensive consumer goods, okay? In other words, like a car. A car is not an investment. It's a consumer good, although a very expensive one today. And just as an interesting factet, when I was a kid and I wanted a car, believe it or not, I mean, some of your listeners will hark back to this era. Hey, you saved up for a car, and then you bought a crappy used car. That's right. The way it worked. And then later, they had 2-year financing for cars. A lot of people jumped into the 3 years, 5 years, now it's 7 years. Yeah, it's crazy to take out a loan on a depreciating asset, because eventually your asset's going down in value while the amount of your loan is going up. In fact, even when people buy a car with 7-year payments, at least they have an asset, not a very good one, but most people are actually leasing cars right now. So instead of at least a crappy asset, you've got an immediate liability. We're heading for big trouble on all levels. And, you mentioned student loans earlier, and the government is talking about forgiving student loans. Well, this impresses me as completely insane. Why should the average taxpayer pay off the loans of people that A, made the very bad decision of going to college, and the people that do go to college tend to be from the upper economic strata, so the poor guy's paying off the rich guy's debt. So the answer to the question is don't go to college today. It's a waste of time and money in most cases. And the people that have made that mistake, well, you know what? Actions have consequences. So you're going to have to pay your debt off. On the bright side, the dollar is losing value so quickly that these loans will basically all be destroyed.